of Journalist Hangout on Sunday. I'm Ayodele Uzubakun. Today on the program, over food crisis in Nigeria. Resident doctors says government is ignoring their warning on strike. And later on the show, banks customers pressure CBN to shift January 31st deadline over scarce new Naira notes. I'll be hanging out with Emeka Madunagu and Paul Dada, while Babajide Kolade Otitoju will be joining us via Zoom. So if you are ready, let the hangout start now. Thank you for staying with us. Food is one of the most basic human rights as it contains all the nutrition that people need to. Today, conflict, climate change, the ongoing impact of COVID-19 and rising cost of living, increasing number of our children acutely malnourished, while life-saving services are becoming less accessible. According to the United Nations, more than 30 million Nigerian children are affected in Nigeria and other countries was hit by the food shortage, while 8 million of these children severely wasted. Used to describe the deadliest form of undernourished 5 UN agencies, including the Food and Agriculture Organization, the UN Refugee Agency, and the United Nations Children's Fund, the World Food Programme, and the World Health Organization are calling for accelerated progress on the Global Action Plan, the SCORCH. Ned, from these indices that have just been given by the United Nations, and let me see, what is the situation like in Nigeria?
Yes, the situation in Nigeria has been worsened by twin factors. The twin factor of insecurity that ensures that farmers have so much difficulty in accessing their farms, as well as the massive flooding of farmlands last year as a result of global warming and other factors related to it. For example, in Nasarawa State, somewhere in Nasarawa State, Olam Farms has one of its biggest farms. And Olam Farms account for more than 20% of the domestic rice production in our country. That farmland, more than 4,000 hectares of it, was washed away by floods. That is just one, talking about one company, one food production company of our country. Many farmlands were flooded. So many farmlands were flooded. In the south, in the farmlands flooded. What this means was that it pushed farmers to begin to harvest their crops before their due date, just so that they can make a little money out of their farmlands. So this in itself would definitely, I know a particular farmer who invested more than 17 million on his rice farm in Taraba State, and he lost everything. So by the time you add this problem caused by flooding to the rampant ban north central and northwest of two main food production belts of our country, you know that we are, in terms of food security, in many communities, bandits have taken over many communities. They force farmers to pay them hefty sums of money before they can even access their farms. For this reason, many farmers have stayed away from their farms in Zamfara, in Sokoto, in Katsina, and in Niger, Kebbi, and a lot of these major food production areas of our country. So that is why we have serious, deeply concerning hike in food prices. Because at the time when you don't have enough, when you do not produce enough, the little that you have produced, the prices will go up. And when prices go up, in the people will lose the ability to even purchase food to feed their families. It will worsen hunger in the nation. It will worsen malnutrition, because young people need to be fed to stave off malnutrition. But if even their parents are struggling to put food on the table, what do these young people then, what do they eat? Don't yet, in it, there are still many communities. Borno State alone can produce the rice that the entire Nigeria needs in Dikwa and all these areas, where they can do all year round farming. But a lot of those communities are not safe. So people would rather stay away from those communities than risk their lives by going to their farms and getting killed, and risk getting killed by Boko Haram men. Look at Kebbi State, where we lost 88 farmers in one day. There has been clashes between farmers and these bandits who demand that they must pay hefty sums of money before they can access their farms. Some farmers will readily agree to it, and the ones who resist usually their lives. Food production belts of our country can access their farms and produce a lot more, so that we'll have food security. We need also to do our best to help our farmers to recover rapidly from the destruction to their farms caused by the kind of flooding that we witnessed towards the end of last year. Unfortunately for us, the flooding began towards the harvest season, so it made matters worse for our people. So across the length and breadth of our country, people experienced serious flooding that compromised the efforts that they had made to produce enough food for the country. So this is the main reason why we have this problem, and I can understand what the Food and Agriculture Organization and other caregivers, what they are saying, that look, because of problems around the world, including even fighting in many communities, people need to be assisted to ensure that hunger does not affect the majority of our people.
Now, when you look at the insecurity and other causes, which one will you rate as the most, the one that the federal government should look more into urgently?
I think that I would say insecurity. Government must address the matter of insecurity. If we didn't have the kind of flooding that we had last year, doesn't happen all the time. In fact, in about a decade, we didn't have that kind of problem. That doesn't mean that they should not take steps to mitigate the effects of this flooding. In a lot of communities, coastal communities, they must create embankments that protect and ensure that farmlands are not flooded as a result of unusual volume of rainfall or usual rainfall patterns and all that. So there are steps that can still be taken. You look at a state like Kogi, for example, the banks of the River Niger, and should be they should put up barriers that ensure that they can control the surge whenever we have that kind of flooding that happen, and then protect the farming communities as well. They need to also provide some incentive to these farmers, because when farmers lose in the manner in which a lot of them lost last year, chances are that they will be discouraged to go into so much farming the next year, except support comes from government. So government has to provide that support for them to encourage them to continue food production. Then the issue of security, that is a bigger problem, and that one is likely to last longer with us unless we set out to defeat insecurity in our country. Flooding may not happen in 2023, but if we defeat insecurity, bandits will still continue to roam our communities and continue to those communities belong to them. We can't have a government within a government, a situation in which our country is not getting enough by way of taxation, and some individuals who turn themselves to local FRS within their communities, forcing our people to part with their hard-earned money before they can access their farms, especially at harvest time, is an undesirable situation. We have to defeat these good-for-nothing bandits so that our farmers can have the confidence to access their farms and all that. So I remember doing a story in Abuja 2 years ago on the eve of Salah, and the rams were very expensive. And what the traders told me was that even communities in the past where they used to go to buy livestock, those communities have become no-go areas. So if they can't go to those communities to buy livestock, what it means is that the price of life. So government must do its best to defeat insecurity.
He said, according to the United Nations, more than 30 million children are affected in Nigeria and 14 other countries, the worst hits by the food shortages, while 8 million of these children are severely wasted. Now, a term used to describe the deadliest form of undernutrition. 8 million Nigerian children.
There's a lot of this severely extreme nutrition. A lot of these children are in IDP camps. When you are in IDP camps, and these IDP camps also spread across our country, you go to a state like Benue, up to 2.7 million people are in IDP camps in Benue State. People do not know the extent of the problem in Benue State, but it's a really big problem. Criminal headsmen have chased people away from their ancestral lands, so they had to go and stay in IDP camps. And in the IDP camps, there is not enough for everyone. Even if people get supplied with food, the quality of the food being supplied is terrible. I've seen cases. I've been to IDP camps to do documentaries, and I shook my quality of food being served, because people were in their homes, they'll be able to afford a lot better of meal, for themselves. But in the IDP camps, they live from hand to mouth. It is what is supplied to them that they eat. They can't go out. They are reliant on caregivers and other people come into the camp to donate their widow's mite. So the people are not eating to their fill. They are not eating as much as they want. They are not getting the right quality of meals. to eat. So a lot of these children, young people in the IDP camps, you see them, they are terribly malnourished. And that's why even in some of the IDP camps, the rate of mortality remember the expose by the Medicine Sans Frontiers about an IDP camp in Borno State, where I think Mafa or Bama, where children were being buried every day. A lot of them as a result of malnutrition, So it took the intervention of Medicine Sans Frontiers before government realized that that problem was there. And in fact, there was already a makeshift burial ground within the IDP camp where these malnourished children were being buried because they were dying in large numbers. So a lot of them are victims of fighting in different communities. They are in the IDP camps. So it is such a high number in our country. We have IDP camps in many parts of our country. A lot of them resulting from the fighting in the northeast, farmer header crisis that we experience in the north central.
Okay. All right. We'll quickly take this break. When we come back, we talk more. It's still Journalist Hangout on Sunday. We'll be right back after this time out. Please stay with us.
In the month of January 2023, the 4th of January is dedicated to World Braille Day to celebrate the inventor Louis Braille. On 6th January, it will be 2 years when U.S. Capitol was attacked by the then President Donald Trump supporters. On 8th January 2020, Ukraine International Airline Flight 752 was shut down shortly after takeoff. Is the armed, which marks the end of the Civil War in 1970. 24th January is International Education Day. On 27th January, it will be 21 years after the Ikeja cantonment blast occurred. 29th January is World Leprosy Day, observed to create awareness on the disease. Stay tuned to TVC News as we serve you with reports and analyses on these notable events.
Information is power, information is security, information is knowledge. On Labor Lens, we believe that working people around the world have real questions of their own. They want to know how the world of work operates, what it means to the employer of labor, how policies affect workers in the workplace. On Labor Lens, I am sure we engage effectively the organized private sector and government to get out of them information workers are in need of. I am Sharon. Questions that make you get sense of the work.
There is always more to a story than the screaming headline. The part of a story that is not told casts a shadow. It's like the part of an object that is not reached by light. On TVC News, I'm able to explore the many angles there are to a story, talking to stakeholders, asking the difficult questions, and digging for facts. I believe the viewers are able to make a better decision if they're well informed and understand not just a part, but the complete story. TVC News, first with breaking news.
Politics is defined as getting what, when, and how. But in the mix, many things come to play to shape the political fortune of any country.
Honorable Minister, that's how you misinform the public.
From the political actors to the electorate, campaign to voting, from debates to policy decisions, big events happen to engage us in constant conversation.
That's what we're looking for. Not some people who are talking about ethnicity. No.
Who is on your mind?
Don't worry.
Join me every day on Politics Tonight, where we dissect issues that shape our political destiny. Politics Tonight, weekdays on TVC News.
Join me, Precious. Precious Amayo as I bring you news from the epicenter, where it happens and when it happens, staying on top of every breaking story, minute by minute, right at the hour where the city gets busy and just before it sleeps. We're live from every angle with objective insight and TVC News. First, the breaking news.
Doubt and fear doesn't occur at the canvas, it shows in the canvas. It shows the conation of raw earthen material slabbed, stroked and molded at a pace provided by the doubt and fear. Every move weigh in the struggle of one to the other, merging the past to the present, brushstrokes of colors seen but not known. For when the wailing stops, the pieces settle down in abject beauty erected for a century of a century. Speaking, advocating, protesting as the arts are meant to be.
It's always a great morning on the TVC Breakfast Show.
Thanks for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
With the array of stories that matter and what's behind them.
As you say, the first blow indicates the direction.
Really is going on between your union and the federal government.
Once it's generated,
if you don't use it, it's waste.
We are not even sure whether we have a security.
Are you saying that there was nothing wrong in that?
Was he the one driving the taxi?
Answer the question.
Reveal your morning with all you need to know.
Like the
yes, just mundane lyrics.
Yes.
How does that fit into your scheme of events or duties right now?
No chief of staff, no general has the right to call a governor to order. The governor has been elected by his people.
Start your day right, because this is the breakfast show that adds to your breakfast. TVC Breakfast, weekdays at 7 a.m. only on TVC News.
Every week, Green Angle, in partnership with Wild Aid, will bring you a documentary series on environmental issues affecting Nigeria's biodiversity, from climate change, air pollution and wildlife conservation. We will be traveling across Nigeria to give you on-the-ground report of the issues. It airs every Saturday at 4:30 p.m. only on TVC News.
It's not your regular show. It's an online interactive session where we share my views on the everyday issues that cut across politics, security, health, current affairs, governance, and so much more. I am passionate about our country. I choose to support any conversation geared towards building a better Nigeria. I am Babajide Kolaji Otitoju. Join me every Saturday on TVC News YouTube channel.
Precious Amayo as I bring you news from the epicenter, where it happens and when it happens, staying on top of every breaking story, minute by minute, right at the hour where the city gets busy and just before it sleeps. We're live from every angle with objective insight and analysis. TVC News, first the breaking news.
Voted as the best TV station of the year. TVC News breaks into the core of every event as they happen. Following all nationwide big and impactful stories. We tell the news from every perspective, covering every. I am Veronica, you would want to watch.
Thank you for staying with us. If you're just joining us, this is Journalist Hangout on Sunday, and I have my guests joining me, Emeka Madunagu and Paul Dada. Jide has been talking from Maiduguri. Jide has been contributing from Maiduguri. He started the program. Strikes are a form of collective action taken by workers to pressure their employers to address their concerns. It is considered a last resort when all other means of negotiation have failed. After a series of strikes Nigerians witnessed in 2022, the National Association of Resident Doctors, NED, has warned of an imminent nationwide industrial action if the federal government does not meet its demand. That's issued the warning in a letter submitted to the Minister of Health, Osage Ehainere, saying it would kickstart the process that would lead to industrial disharmony. Its lingering issues are not, if lingering issues are not addressed before its National Executive Council meeting scheduled for 24th of January 2023. The association had issued an ultimatum to the federal government 6 months ago over unresolved issues affecting its members. Paul, let me start from you. I don't know, National Association of Resident Doctors, we faced this, and it's almost grinded that sector, the health sector, like 2 years ago. And there was this back and forth, like ASU. It held the attention of the entire country. I don't know if the federal government has refused to meet that demand, and they've given this 6 months ago. Now they are not giving the federal government another notice.
And that's the most painful part of it. They gave FG a notice 6 months. Nothing is being done. It was only yesterday, I think it was yesterday, I was discussing with someone, and we're talking about the health sector, that, you know, the least you can do for the citizens, the least. I mean, Nigerians are not asking for too much. We just want to live, you know, want to eat. You discussed food crisis just before now. And then we want to access basic health care. Now, resident doctors form a very basic size of the health workers, I mean, a very good size of the population of health workers in this country. What we have currently, we have doctors, you know, jackpying, so to speak, to other countries, because
there's so much brain drain in that sector.
There's so much brain drain in the sector, and it's very unfortunate that we are still on the same issue of allowances, you know, review of what's it called, their emoluments to fit the national minimum wage and all the normal things. They are not asking for anything new. This is not something we have not heard before, and we are still joking with this. It's very unfortunate, because it will end up, if they go on strike, it will end up leading to people, you know, dying and all of that. Again, today, somebody was telling me of a lady who had an accident. She was hit by a vehicle, and her leg from her ankle was crushed because doctors were on strike. Doctors were on strike during that period. The next day, from her knee, you know, was dead. The thing had moved to her knee, or even beyond her knee, and then they had to amputate it beyond the knee. Beyond the knees. This is what people go through when we have this lopsidedness in the health sector. We shouldn't be owing doctors. We shouldn't be having problems with the health sector. We need to do something. We need to just wake up.
Emeka, another time, you said about what we are going to lose if these guys embark on the strike, the number of lives and everything. And it's not as if, you know, the government will somehow wait for this deadline to expire, and when they begin the strike, that is when negotiation will start. Why do we have to always do that?
Well, it's
6 month notice.
It's unfortunate that the negotiating mechanism of the federal government is so faulty, and there is this assumption accentuated by the current Minister of Labour and Employment, Dr. Chris Ngige, that workers should they shouldn't even agitate. You saw it during the ASU strike. Instead of sitting down with ASU to resolve, even with the intervention of people like the Speaker of the House of Representatives, you still saw that hostile attitude from the minister. It was as if the workers should not agitate, they should not ask for better conditions. Instead of taking time to resolve these issues, what did he do? He went about encouraging some people to form splinter unions. Where are the splinter unions today? After the strike was called up, the splinter unions were still asking for arrears, the same arrears that ASU have been asking for. And then, where has that left us? In the health sector, we are in a serious crisis. What is the response of government? Oh, they will bring in foreign doctors. You see, we keep believing that we can take half measures to resolve serious national issues. The health is something to joke with because health is wealth. We notice 6 months ahead, and what is the crux of everything they're asking for? It all has to do with their basic allowances. It has to do quality allowances and all of those things. Now, you claim that there's no money to pay them, but you have money to put in certain others to keep funding a fuel subsidy regime that is not benefiting the ordinary Nigerians. And so, if we do not prioritize the health of the people, there is nothing we can say we are achieving as a nation. The health of the people is very, very important. And the population is even increasing. The population is increasing. Yet, we are not meeting up that ratio, the global ratio for doctors to patients. We are not even near it. And then the minister already said, the Minister of Labour already said that, well, we have enough doctors. How can any nation ever have enough? So is it that those beyond the number, you think makes what you call enough? They can.
Maybe he was thinking of urban medicine practitioners.
Yeah, maybe. So that attitude, that hostile attitude has to stop. Negotiate with these people. Because what you now find is that, I'll give you an example. Recently, in one state, when the Ministry of Health went on a raid, if you know the number of quack doctors they found, the number of drug dispensers who were calling themselves doctors, put people at risk. Matter of fact, some were even giving injections. Some even conducting surgery. I think there was one that was called conducting surgery who joined the woman's womb with one other part of the body. And then these people dispense drugs to the people. This is scandalous. But why do you have such criminals in the system? Because the government has not made sure that the professionals are well taken care of. So in such a situation, what do you find?
Must we always resort to strike, or must government always wait for these people? Now they've given these notices now. I just wish by tomorrow morning somebody's going to sit down with them.
Frankly, we like seeing negative history repeat itself in our country. When these people go on strike now and they make all demands known, people will be abusing them and be needlessly citing the Minister of Labour and Productivity, who has done absolutely nothing to get this problem solved. We need to look at their demands because there are specific demands that these people made. One of the demands is the payment of the outstanding arrears of the new hazard allowance. Government of non-payment of consequential adjustments to the new minimum wage. The salary arrears of colleagues in state tertiary health institutions, states like Abia, Imo, Ondo, Ekiti, and Gombe. So the point is, there are some states that have state universities, and those state universities actually have what we call teaching universities and other tertiary health institutions. They are being owed. There's a particular state that was owing doctors 5 months' salary. You want to owe people their wages. You want to owe people salaries. You are owing doctors as much as 5 months' salaries. A doctor that is not motivated, a doctor who is not happy, is an extreme danger to the society. But these governors are owing doctors in their states. So they are saying pay the arrears of our colleagues in the states. This issue has been there. Want the Residency Training Act to be domesticated in the states. They are saying that in most of the states, the Residency Training Act has not been domesticated. What that means is that the funds that should go for residency training, the allowances that they should get, will not come to them. Then they also want a situation in which the commerce, that is the consolidated medical salary structure, they want it updated. They want it updated so that there will be, even if marginal, increase to their salaries. These demands are not demands that cannot be met. The problem is just that our government always waits for workers to go on strike before doing the needful. And going on strike is the right of every worker. All over the world, people go on strike. It is only the slave that is not permitted to go on strike. And Nigerian workers are not slaves. The Minister of Labor needs to sit down, do his work, and ensure that these medical workers won't go on strike, because that would be really injurious to our nation.
All right. Now, over the years, Kano has played a pivotal role in being one of the high points of victory for any candidate who wants to win, wants administrative seats in the world's most populous black nation. All eyes will be on Kano's forthcoming presidential election, stated for Saturday, February 28th. It's as about 5.9 million votes will be up for grabs in Nigeria's most populous states, according to the 2026 National Census. 4 names seem to be on the lips of Nigerians as 18 candidates battle to woo the electorate. Emeka, it's not as if the number of registered voters in Kano, is more than Lagos. But over time, the turnouts, the number of people that actually vote election day, Lagos since 1999 has been nothing to write home about.
Yes.
For both presidential and all the election. So we are not Lagos. We are not really using, as of today now, 0.1 million registered voters in Lagos. But to determine the election of Governor Sanwo-Olu, less than 2 million people participated in that exercise. So, but up north, Kano is a place that immediately they were counting the votes of 2015. At the point in time when they just came with Kano, 1.9 million votes. At that time, it became difficult when other votes from Delta, Enugu, and some other states, they couldn't just catch up that figure. So the wide margin that Kano gave the All Progressive Congress is like a kind of head start. So if you want to win Kano now, if you want to be the president now, that means you must take the chunk of Kano's votes. So it's a battleground state.
Yeah, that's a fact. That's a fact. But you also like that. It was Muhammadu Buhari that was on the ballot in 2015 and 2019.
Yes.
And he was an old war horse. He had been there, he had been running from the CPC, from AMPP to CPC and then to APC. So of course, there had now become that kind of familiarity with the voters, particularly in the north. So by 2015, 1.9. But by 2019, yes, he beat Atiku, resoundingly. But I think it came down to 1.4 or so by 2019. So you find out that he's not going to be on the ballot February 25. So that idea, taking things for granted, which he had had that advantage. Between 2003 and 2015, 12 good years will not be, available to any of the presidential candidates running, or, that will be on the ballot.
Some might have advantage. They might take advantage.
Yes, because auxiliary factors. Maybe for the fact that, okay, who is the governor of the state, who are the members of the House of Assembly, who are this, who is that. But don't forget again, one of the people on the ballot is Kwankwaso, a former governor of Kano State, who was governor, came back after how many years, and picked Ganduje, who, as his running mate, he won again, and Ganduje is a sitting governor. So a lot of factors have been, a lot of factors will come into play. But the interesting thing is that the candidates will have to work really hard this time. Nobody can just sit back and say, okay, because my governor, because my party member is this or that, then it's just a matter of, will come into play. So,
Kano is a battleground state, undoubtedly.
Indeed it is. Emeka said the candidates have to work hard. I think they're already working hard. I think the candidates already know what the stakes are. Look at Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, for example. Look at all the times he has visited Kano. And of course, he will be banking on the what Ganduje can pull.
The sitting governor.
Yes, and again, of course, while it is true that Buhari may not be as popular as it was before, because people can now, you can't rule the fact that people are disenchanted with the performance of his administration. But you can't also say that he still does, that his support base has waned considerably. You can't say that in Kano. Also, it's a fact though that it's not the one on the ballot. So Asiwaju will also need the goodwill, as well as Shekarau's exit, a very big plus for Atiku. And it's not as if Atiku himself does not enjoy certain level of goodwill in Kano. He also has some support in Kano with Ganduje. It's very good. And also remember that some big wigs in APC, they exited, actually from Kano South, they exited recently, and it's a plus. And let's talk about Kwankwaso. Kwankwaso is thought to be one of the most influential, politicians in Kano.
Okay, let's quickly take this call. Julius is calling us from Jos. Oh, I think Julius.
Kwankwaso is thought to be one of the most influential, if not even the most influential.
Election, Ganduje has beaten.
I know. That's why I said debatably.
But you governorship election. Yes, I covered the one election. Nasarawa local group. No, 2019. No, they were leading. They were leading. PDP were leading with 43,000 votes, and they just had Nasarawa local government. And Ganduje was able to close up the gap in Nasarawa local government, and he won convincingly.
We are not saying that Ganduje is still not popular, but we are just saying that they cannot rest on their horse. Yeah. Kwankwaso is popular. And then Peter Obi it seems to be targeting the Sabongeri area where you have non-indigens. Kano is a cosmopolitan city.
The no man's land.
No man's land. So a lot of people of course, it is true that many people in those areas will be sympathetic towards Peter Obi. Yes. So Kano is that. When mentioning, they will mention collecting the votes state by state, had their Kano, the game change. And that's where it's going to be. Kano will always
make expect it's going to be like that.
Always make a difference. It will always be like that.
Now, Jide, since 1999, if you look at the trend, if you don't get Kano, it's going to be difficult for you to win the presidency. So what is expected? Is there a balance of forces in Kano in terms of people that will be slugging it out, or the All Progressive Congress will be having this edge, and the edge will be so pronounced?
You can lose Kano and still win the election by a wide margin, because Jonathan didn't win Kano in 2011, but he still won the election by a huge landslide. What you cannot afford is to lose Kano, Lagos, and River State and expect that you win the election. You can't expect that you win if you lose all of those major states. But Kano is truly special, not because it has a higher number of registered voters, but because the political culture is richer than that of any other state. And the people are so easy to mobilize to go and vote. It has been like this for many years. The people are self-motivated to vote. The people are extremely politically conscious. And Kano has a history of producing big political juggernauts.
Yes.
Right from the First Republic, they've always produced big name politicians. An individual will find it difficult to dominate Kano politics. You can see that today is about 3, if not 4 of them now who are, dominating the political landscape. It's difficult for an individual to dominate the political space in Kano. So Kano is expected to still record a higher vote than Lagos, despite the fact that Lagos has 7 million voters registered. Lagosians who are ready to vote, the women troop out in large numbers, the men troop out in large numbers. They don't need so much motivation to go and vote. So that works for the average politician in Kano. Now, look at the 2019 election. Shekarau was the candidate, the APC candidate for Kano Central. Shekarau alone polled 556,000 votes. The votes that Shekarau polled in some states, the total number of registered voters of voters who partook in the election in some states was lower than what an individual, a senatorial candidate, polled. In Imo State, Atiku scored 334,000 votes, while Buhari scored 140,000 votes, which means the votes recorded by these two individuals in that state was lower than what Shekarau alone scored in that election. Buhari and Atiku put together scored 557,738 in Anambra State, whereas Shekarau alone scored 556,000 votes. He was the senatorial candidate who got the highest number of votes across Nigeria in the 2019 election. So Kano would always be expected to lead the nation in terms of number of people who come out on election day to vote, and that's why Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has prioritized Kano. He must have gone to Kano up to 4 times now, because he knows that that is a state that he cannot afford to lose. And the contest is even made stiffer by the presence of Kwankwaso in the race. Kwankwaso is very, very strong. The last election, the 2019 election, the governorship candidate of Kwankwaso's party dominated Kano Municipal. Kano Municipal with no less than 8 local governments. But Ganduje got more votes in the hinterland. In fact, Ganduje defeated Kwankwaso in Kwankwaso's local government. He scored more votes. If Ganduje had not done well in those local governments outside of Kano municipality, there is no way we will have been able to win the election.
Local government to it.
So the by-election that took place in Gama Ward of Nasarawa local government was the saving grace for Ganduje, but he owes that victory to his performance in the local governments outside of the state capital because the candidate of Kwankwaso defeated him in the more cosmopolitan local governments of the state. That's talking about Nasarawa, Dala, and all of these local governments will be fierce in those municipal local governments because there are plenty of votes in them. There are not as many as the local government, the interland, but there are so many votes to fight for in that area. So I foresee a very stiff battle in Kano, and at this stage, it's difficult to say that this is the way the election will go, but I know that the election will be between Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Kwankwaso in Kano. That is basically what will happen. It's going to be between those two individuals because currently they are very strong, very, very strong in terms of the kind of people around them, in terms of the voters available to work.
All right, we'll take this breather. When we come back, we'll talk more. There's still journalists.
The Nigerian Armed Forces, the vanguard of the nation, standing between you and our common enemy like the rock of Gibraltar. Be it in the night or day, rain or sun, the land, air and sea, they are always there to protect, guide and preserve the sovereignty and integrity of the country. When we are sleeping, cuddled up with our families, they are out there in the trenches. We honor all our fallen heroes. Your sacrifices can never be forgotten. May your souls rest in peace. So Nigerians, let's pray for the continued protection of our armed forces as we wish them a happy Armed Forces Remembrance Day. This message is from the Defense Intelligence Agency.
So, all in favor say aye. Those against no, the ayes are read.
What do you know about the legislature, its role in governance, and as one of the three arms of government? Lagos Parliament is here to bring it to you as it is. Here to bring you every detail you need to know about the legislature in Africa's most populous city. On Lagos Parliament, you get a chance to meet the lawmaker of the week. Events are critically reviewed. You can also observe plenary in Yoruba language. I am Abimbola Agbebi. Join me every Friday at 9 p.m. as I take you through the activity of the legislature.
In the month of January 2023, the 4th of January is dedicated to World Bread, the inventor Louis Braille. On 6th January, it will be 2 years when U.S. Capitol was attacked by the then President Donald Trump supporters. On 8th January 2020, Ukraine International Airline Flight 752 was shut down shortly after takeoff. 15th January is the Armed Forces Remembrance Day, which marks the end of the Civil War in 1970. 24th January is International Education Day. On 27th January, it will be 21 years after the Ikeja cantonment blast occurred. 29th January is World Leprosy Day, observed to create awareness on the disease. Stay tuned to TVC News as we serve you analysis of these notable events.
Every week, Green Angle, in partnership with Wild Aid, will bring you a documentary series on environmental issues affecting Nigeria's amazing biodiversity, from climate change, air pollution, and wildlife conservation. We will be traveling across Nigeria to give you on-the-ground report of the issues affecting our environment. It airs every Saturday at 4:30 p.m. only on TVC News.
It's the most visited state in Africa. As the 5th largest economy on the continent, covering Lagos and its government is no mean feat. It's a busy beat. go beyond the cutting of tapes to traveling far into the deep.
I want to thank the Lagos State government for the healthcare facility.
To bring stories that cut across all spectrums.
A greater Lagos.
Stories that define our collective well-being as Lagosians. I'm Adedoja Salamadini. I live in Lagos, inside Lagos.
Thank you for staying with us. This is Journalist Hangout. On Sunday, I still have Emeka Madunagu and Paul Dada with me. And Jide is joining us somewhere from the north. That's Maiduguri. That's the Borno State's capital. Nigeria, like many other countries, has and attracts investments. Some of these policies have been controversial due to concern that they may lead to unintended consequences, including an increase in government debts. Nigeria President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawal, has frowned at the indiscriminate tax holidays, import duty, waivers, and concessions being granted to investors by the federal government. He lamented that the country generates abysmal low revenue, thus relies on loans to execute projects for infrastructural development. Ahmed advised the federal government to review the waivers and concessions already granted to corporate entities, saying the upper chambers within the remaining period of its tenure would engage revenue-generating agency with a view of shoring up the country's earnings. Well, we're not earning enough. Yes. And we don't seem to, the tax net is not covering, is not wide enough to cover all people. And upon this, government will still grant
tax incentives to
tax waivers, tax incentive to some corporation. The Senate President is not happy with this.
The whole idea of giving tax incentives, tax holidays, waivers, it's a very good one. It's actually to attract investment and all of that, to also help companies to be able to, recoup their investment, not to put so much burden on them. I get it. It's good. It's good, but there are criteria. There are criteria for giving those incentives. But what the Senate is complaining about now is that it's done indiscriminately. That's one. Secondly, the fact that we are borrowing too much. We are borrowing too much to finance our budget. Now we have over 2023 legitimate. They need to look into how even those incentives are given. That's one. Two, agencies that conduct their businesses, government generate business in a very obscure way, and you don't even know what they are earning, you don't even know what they are generating, and they just nobody.
And they don't remit.
They don't remit, and nobody talks about it. Or we talk about it, just look at it as if it's nothing. A lot of people are also evading tax. I just hope that. Many times the legislative arm is like a dog that barks, I cannot bite. I just hope this is not some grandstanding. If the Senate is inviting these agencies, it's fine. The agencies must be exposed. Why they must be those who head those agencies must be disgraced, and recommendations must be made for them to be. There must be consequences. There will be consequences. Remember, let me just remember even JAM. Somebody was there before. And then you remember when Professor Dibo Ojoride was there?
Yes.
He couldn't generate anything. And this man that is there now.
Isha Koloyede.
Look at because that man.
That's the fact that it's not a revenue generating agency.
It's not. That's what I'm
billions.
It's not a revenue generating agency, and because the man there is honest, is sincere. Look what is happening.
The Dibo Ojoride is under prosecution now.
How much more agencies that are supposed to generate revenues, and they are doing. So see, we are owing so much, and then Servicing of debt. Look at how much you are even spending to service our debt. It does not make sense to keep borrowing. You are borrowing, you keep borrowing, you keep borrowing. You can't even pay what you borrowed. I mean, what it costs you to finance to fund your loan, you know, it's a burden. So the whole thing is very nonsensical. So if the Senate is saying this now, yes, they should say it. They should say it, but we want to see consequences. That's the problem I have with our polity. We make a lot of noise, you know. And then Senate can invite people now, invite the heads of agencies, and then they make all the noise. And then that is it. Another election comes, and then the cycle continues. It's very bad.
These tax holidays, import waivers, and concessions being granted to investors.
Yeah, you know, President Buhari, some months ago, promising more in win for foreign.
You said the president is not happy.
You know, yes, but you see, look at the way it is. Okay, for instance, if according to the Finance Act, if you don't generate up to 25 million naira turnover in a year, you don't have to pay company income tax. You don't have to pay VAT. So look at that. In order to help SMEs, otherwise they will collapse. There will not be jobs. And SMEs are really employing a lot of people. That is one side of it.
Startups.
The other side of it is that the big names, there are these big names that have been enjoying these tax waivers and all that. And I think it's not supposed to last beyond 5 years, in the first instance. And then
maybe it's 3 years in the first instance.
No, it's 5 years. In second instance, 2 years. So it's not supposed to last more than 7 years. That PSI. That PSI was the expert. Now, you find out that it has become indiscriminate. All kinds of people are being brought in. Yes, you bring in, you give them these things. But let us even look at the oil and gas industry. Look at the issue between MultiChoice and the federal government that lasted for some time at the tax tribunal. The back and forth and everything. If they can look at all these sectors, there's a lot of money hiding in these sectors, that if they can get this money and then implement the Stamp Duty Act very well. The other day, Anambra State government, I saw something they put on Facebook about Stamp Duty Act, reminding people doing business in the state that, its revenue agency has started the collection, strict implementation of the Stamp Duty Act. So definitely, when you deal with all these sectors, make sure that money that can easily be collected is collected. Then we will now
corporate social responsibility project, and some will even take up maintenance of our big infrastructure, and in compensation, the federal government will have to give them tax holiday.
Yeah, we see companies approach the government to say they want to do this, they want to do that. But most of the time, it is Nigeria that gets the short end of the stick. People will praise them, they are fixing roads for government, this and that. At what cost? If you investigate thoroughly, you will see that the government has even been cheated in a way. Because you forego the tax that they should pay, you give tax holiday and all that. What did not happen is that, look, it has to use the law to regulate the processes by which are granted tax waivers, are granted tax holidays and all that. Even some of them are exempted from paying duty. There are some items that you are supposed to pay duty for. Once some powerful people in government have stake in that company, or they like the particular importer, you pile pressure on the finance minister to include the thing that the line of business that company is doing in their import duty waiver. For example, if we are importing raw material, if they are interested, if we are close to them, instead of you to pay duty, they will exempt you from paying duty. It is a company, it is a government that, it is a country that is losing. You reward your friends with all kinds of illegal waivers at the expense of the state. Whereas this is a country that cannot find money to fund projects. Fashola was saying the other day that they were looking for money to complete the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, that funding was an issue. You know, after all these years, we still can't find enough money, despite some of the money from the Abacha loot and the Sovereign Wealth Fund that we have used. We still can't find enough money to get the job done. So how can a country that is not generating enough be making it difficult for its significant amounts of money through all these illegal waivers that are being done all over the place? So it is a good measure on the part of the National Assembly. No one is saying that they should not, that there should be no tax holidays and all that. Even in the developed world, some people get tax holidays in exchange for some good things that they do. But the process has to be transparent. It is those who deserve it that should get it. You and I know that in our country, a lot of people get what they do not deserve. And the argument of the National Assembly is that, look, in the last 5 years, we have failed revenue totaling 3.9 trillion. Look at the gap. In 2019, the target was 7 trillion. We were only able to collect 4.12 trillion naira. In 2020, the target was 5.4 trillion. We were only able to collect 3.9 trillion. In 2021, the target was 6.4 trillion. We were only able to collect revenue of 4.64 trillion naira. In 2022, the target was 5.82 trillion naira. We were only able to collect revenue of 3.6 trillion. Whereas back in 2015, we only spent 32.7% of our revenue to service. So something must give, something has to happen. If we want to, we cannot survive if we continue to have this low revenue. We just cannot survive. A time will come when you won't be able to borrow money anymore. That's what the same Senate president who has been approving requests to borrow money has now realized that we can't continue like this.
We can't.
So he said it that a time has to come that we will stop.
Okay, let me take this final break. When we come back, we'll talk more.
Committed to the unity of our great country, Nigeria.
Let us support our armed forces. Stand together with them. Let us stand for them.
Our symbol of unity,
the gallant men forces
on land, air, and sea,
who have continuously put their life on the line, protecting our lives, humanity, and nation.
Let us join them and stick together
as one, irrespective of
our misunderstanding, be it political, cultural, or ideological.
Our uniqueness is our oneness, our strength
is our diversity.
Let us stand by, stand with, and support our armed forces to keep this nation together.
Nigeria is my own. Nigeria is your own. Nigeria is our own.
This is wishing the Nigerian Armed Forces a happy Armed Forces Remembrance.
This is Journalist Hangout Sunday. We spend beyond the 1 hour and we take it to 120 minutes, that's 2 hours, to make sure you get a full dose of what is happening in the polity. Now, the politics of tenure elongation often sees leaders deploy political strategies and tactics to remain in power beyond their constitutional or electoral term limits. This can include changes in the constitution, manipulation of the electoral process, or other forms of legal or illegal action. For the umpteenth time, former President Olusegun Obasanjo has insisted that he was not interested in the tenure elongation. Even he was audacious enough to secure a third time if he had wanted it before exiting power in 2007. Stated this while speaking at a virtual meeting organized by African Leadership Group. He also said he would not join the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, saying he has done his best by writing his endorsement, having retired from partisan politics. Olusegun Obasanjo. Let's start with this third time thing. It was glaring, it was obvious, a lot of people saw it, and people were under pressure, and the National Assembly were like, bribed, money was made available to the National Assembly, yet, and even a minister that served under him, Nasir El-Rufai, documented it in his accidental public servant, documented it that yes, he wanted it, and it said the role everybody played there. But still, Olusegun Obasanjo, years after, is still saying that, no, I wasn't part of this, I never wanted it.
I think the only Nigerian was no tenure elongation should be Olusegun Obasanjo. I don't think he believes himself, really. It's probably just grandstanding. Only last Sunday, I was saying that Obasanjo should not be condemned for endorsing Peter Obi. But on tenure elongation, nobody believes Obasanjo. Obasanjo was, look at what he even said, I was audacious enough. For me, it shows a fundamental problem. For him to be talking like this, it's a symptom of a disease we have in our country, where men are bigger than institutions. Where men are bigger than institutions. Olusegun Obasanjo was a larger-than-life president. He was a man who could orchestrate the removal of a sitting governor with just few legislators.
6.
Yes. He was a man who removed a state governor under the guise of state of emergency. Joshua Dari. This was a man who was... He knew economics more than the economists. He knew religion more than the pastors. This was a man who thought he was everything, was all in all. This was a man who was bigger in his actions. His administration flagrantly disobeyed court orders. This same Obasanjo starved a state, Lagos State, of funds because he had problems with the state governor. This kind of man shouldn't be talking like this. By that, I'm sorry, he's an elder, but should bend his head in shame for talking this way. He had plans for third term, and it was frustrated. He shouldn't be talking this way. In fact, this is one of the things that has made him to be infamous. I think he's infamous in this area, and he will go down in history as a man who tried to elongate himself in power. I couldn't do it. If not with the Constitution, although we blame them that why would they throw out the entire Constitution because of just the third time this thing. But Obasanjo shouldn't be talking like this. We know that he planned to do it. Yes, I still insist that if he wants to endorsing Peter Obi is not the problem. But he should not be posturing as a Puritan that he's not. He's not a Puritan. He's a pseudo-Puritan. So, if Obasanjo wants to endorse anybody, if he doesn't want to practice partisan politics, it's okay. But we know what he tried to do. And this is a country, there are still some little Obasanjos in our polity, who try to determine the fate of a group, maybe a political party, maybe an institution, because of their own selfish interest.
Emeka, Obasanjo denying years after?
Well, I was shocked when he said, when I heard that part about that he was audacious enough and he could have secured a third term. I feel at his age, as people grow older, much older, having crossed that mark of 70, which is the famed biblical, ceiling for life, that anybody beyond that, well, should thank God you're living on Jara time. I think we should people in that bracket should begin to come to terms with things they have done rightly or wrongly, especially the things they have done wrongly, and then be thinking of their legacies.
Exactly.
So that it will be easier for them to be remembered, to be judged fairly. Definitely, Obasanjo had laudable ideas. And GSM,
Patriots.
But he allowed that, what will I call it? He allowed that lust for power to overshadow all the good things he did. And he shouldn't even be talking about third term now, because this was someone who got our creditors to cancel, our debts.
Debt forgiveness.
So I think even when the question came up, he should have found a way to run around it, because obviously, like you said, that in throwing out that third term, it also made Nigeria lose benefits that were in the constitutional review.
Exactly.
So the nation lost a lot. It was just the same thing like June 12. Up till today, General Ibrahim Babangida has not come out to apologize for the annulment of June 12. He just keeps telling you, I did it in concert with this, I did it for this. Sir, with due respect, can you just come out? It won't take you anything. Nigerians, I'm sorry, you just had a flight of fancy at that time and did it, or whatever. I think you have got to a certain age. You can proudly, public, even if people around you are shouting, you can just come out for the sake of your legacy and your name and the name you're going to leave for your children and say, listen, I'm sorry about what happened at so and so time. Well, maybe I was right, maybe I was wrong. I don't want to go into all of those things, but, well, it didn't serve the interest of the nation. Thank you very much. And you close the chapter. But to now say you were audacious enough, you couldn't have, well, that could have taken the nation also into the kind of crisis, avoidable crisis we had after the annulment of June 12. And have we recovered from the annulment of June 12? The answer is no. We have not. Look at voter party today. It's part of it that after all, if we come out to vote, our votes will not count. Now, people will tell you, people who are old enough to have voted in June 12, they say, look at what happened in June 12, during the June 12 election. So I think not just Obasanjo, Babangida, some of these elderly men who played crucial, critical roles in Nigeria's history should please come out with the truth, and let there be a clean state. Yes, I applaud him for having the courage to endorse Peter Obi. Yes, let others endorse other candidates as they deem fit, whichever candidates as they deem fit. But that issue of third term, please, we are journalists. We saw a lot of things that happened. We saw how money moved. Principal actors. A senator from the Southeast, was he not the one that was said to have distributed the largesse through a defunct bank, through a branch somewhere in Abuja? Or do they want us to start calling names that were reported at that time? You see, we don't need to go back into all these things. It's part of the painful history of Nigeria. Please, let he should just let it go.
What do you make of this denial by Olusegun Obasanjo?
On behalf of the former president, I am ashamed. Because Obasanjo cannot rewrite history. He cannot give us his own version of history. We will not accept. We remember everything that happened. We are not too young. We were reporting everything that happened. And for Obasanjo to say that if he wanted to proceed, his contempt for the Nigerian people, it shows that he even saw himself as bigger than the Nigerian nation. Because the Nigerian nation was not interested in third term. And you cannot say that you are bigger than your country, that if you wanted it, you will have had it. You couldn't get members of your party to support you for second term, you have to go and prostrate for a man much younger than you. You prostrated, you held the man's leg just to get a second term. You didn't even have control of governance. So how could you have control of the entire federal legislature? Nigerian journalists are the true heroes of the failure of third term.
Yes.
And I will explain why. Senate President Ken Onamani called a meeting of senior editors at a hotel. I was privileged to be in attendance. And he told us, look, this third term problem has come. What do you want me to do? Advise me. Clearly, Ken Onamani wanted third term at that time because he granted the news magazine an interview in which he said clearly that there was nothing wrong in tenure elongation, that some of the Asian tigers had benefited from it. So when he came to us asking us what he should do, journalists, senior journalists, Eniola Bello and the rest of them, they got up one after another to tell him, look, the Nigerian people do not want third. From our interaction with Nigerians, they do not want third term. We then advised him that if some lawmakers would insist on third term, permit the TV stations to record proceedings live so that their own people can see them asking for third term. But the proceedings were broadcast live. After the first day, one of the senators from the Northwest who asked for third term, who claimed that his people wanted third term, his house was set ablaze in the Northwest. After that first day, a lot of the people who were publicly, they could not dare push that agenda on the floor of the Senate because of the fear of the burning of their houses and other repercussions that will come with it. That was how third term was defeated. I'm happy I was there. We advised Ken Onamani on what to do. We were the ones who told him to let the tape be broadcast live. Let us see whether these people will have the courage to say that their people wanted third term. And the people, they didn't have the courage. We knew that it would end that way. We were the one who suggested this to him. And I know that a lot of the senior editors who were at that meeting, they are watching me, and they can corroborate this. So this was how it happened. Third term. I have evidence of that. But after meeting editors, he thought we would rubber stamp third term. We told him, no, don't do it. And the way to ensure that it will not work is for you to let this thing be watched live by Nigerians. And true to our prediction, those senators backed out. Only very few senators, even after collecting money, who want to put their lives at risk by getting up in the Senate when being watched by millions of Nigerians and said they wanted Obasanjo to continue. Now, El-Rufai was the first person, because they've always denied. El-Rufai was the first person who worked for Obasanjo who came out to say, yes, indeed, there was a plan for third term. After Obasanjo endorsed Peter Obi, Sule Lamido got so sufficiently angry. Sule Lamido is one of the most loyal persons that I know to Obasanjo. Because Obasanjo made him Minister of Foreign Affairs. Obasanjo also ensured that he became governor in the state. He worked hard for him to even be picked. Sule Lamido accused Obasanjo last week of plotting for third term. That was a new one for me, because I'd never seen where he criticized Obasanjo in my life. He said, Obasanjo is talking about fairness. Is third term fair? Was it not after third term? So, apart from the little man in Kaduna, we have seen the tall man from Jigawa also saying Obasanjo wanted third term. So, how many people is he going to lie? I'm going to meet your maker. There are certain things that you can't be saying. You can't be lying publicly. You can't. You don't need these lies. You don't need it. Everyone knows that you wanted third term and you failed. You cannot be saying that if you wanted it, you will have succeeded. If you wanted it and the rest of us don't want it, how will you get there? Are you a military president? So this is the thing. I think the debate is settled. Obasanjo wanted third term and he didn't get it. A man will not always have whatever he wants. At times we see a beautiful woman, you like the woman, but she's somebody else's wife. And you respect yourself, you just back off. So a man cannot always have what he desires. That is a fact of life. He wanted third term, but he couldn't get it because Nigerians didn't want it. Even Atiku at that time was the head of those who were mobilizing to ensure that Obasanjo didn't get third term. There was an interview that we had with him. My boss, Reverend Ojudu, was with me. And Atiku told us that he mobilized other people, spent money to ensure that the third term failed. And yet a man will still be lying that he did not want third term. Abba, I have to stop lying to us now. Abba.
I think this is former President Obasanjo should just allow this to rest.
Because
the more you try to deny it, the more you try to wiggle out.
The money raised by Ndio Kereka and UK and Co. and the rest of them. He just wants to drag. He wants to drag many eminent Nigerians. He just wants to drag them into the gutter.
It is enough for him to say he supports Peter Obi. Let him leave this thought. It's already part of his history. People will always come back to blame him for it. He mentioned the GSM resolution, all of that. So many things he did well. People will talk about that.
Yeah. But just don't allow this part. And finally on the show today, moving on, our final topic, the Central Bank of Nigeria may be under pressure to extend the deadline for the old notes to cease being legal tender as bankers and customers push for the extension. The old notes are expected to be out of circulation by January 31st, yet there's a scarcity of new notes as banks keep dispensing old notes to their customers. Pressure is mounting on the Apex Bank to extend the deadline in order to allow the new notes to circulate well and ensure MOPOs, according to sources, for an extension of the deadline, but are reluctant to make the call as the decision of the Naira had their approval.
You know, we had this discussion on Sunday.
Nothing has changed.
Nothing has changed.
Nothing has changed.
The way to go.
If you see the new note now, if you get the new note now, you are lucky.
Yeah, I saw the new note. Both of us saw the new note for the first time.
Yes.
When Adekunle Yusuf brought it out.
Yes, last week.
Before that time, I had not seen the new notes before. But I don't work within the banking sector. I also said that there was a banker who said he had never seen the new note until he went to a party. I mean, somebody who works within the bank says, I have never seen the new, I've not cited the new note, but I saw it at a party. The truth of the matter is it's not possible. It's not sustainable. BKO told us last week, it was in Yola, and he said a bank, the branch of a popular, of a tier 1 bank, there was just one in the entire capital city. You understand? So how do you...
That kind of pressure.
How do you want... What do you want... What will be the fate of, for example, that trader...
distribute the new notes to its customers. Exactly. And you have one branch.
So the way to go is to just extend it. There's no way to go about it. If you... except to do the magic and make it available, flood the country with the ATMs, with the new notes. If you don't do that, if you cannot do that, if you don't make it abundantly available, then the way to go is to extend the date. There are no two ways about it. Even bankers are saying it should be extended. If the MDs are doing it surreptitiously, it is because they also know that calling for the extension overtly is not my business. What is important is that we should have the new notes. Otherwise, some people will be in trouble.
Rebecca, today is 15th, and we're looking at 31st deadline. 16 more days to go. Do you see all this, the old note getting out of circulation and the new notes circulating in 16 days?
No, of course, not possible now, because many of the notes were even printed in 2018. And you look at them, they're more durable than the new notes. That's on one side. The other side is that Nigerians would have voluntarily, even started returning those old notes. But the fact of the matter is that the alternative channels are not trustworthy. They are not reliable. You hear a lot of people, one lady the other day was talking about a bank, that deducted her 4 million. Look, complaining about what the banks are doing, failed transactions and all that. If the CBN had put in so much effort into ensuring that those payment channels work seamlessly, I believe, you see, it will even be easier to mop up the notes. And the idea behind the January 31 deadline, as has been widely said, is because of the elections, to make sure that politicians do not use the old notes, do not spread the old notes all around. If it is that, then clean up the other channels, clean up the other payment channels so that people can easily adapt to get the new notes. I was at the bank the other day, and I asked one of the officials, why don't you people have the new? It's finished though. The one we had is finished. If a branch of a bank in a commercial area can be saying it's finished,
Lagos.
What about in rural areas, in remote areas? So the fact of the matter is that I think the idea is a good one. Well, it's the prerogative of the government to decide to reduce the currency as many times as it wants. But if you're tying it to the cashless economy, make sure you clean up everywhere. And then the other thing I want to say is that how come you have vendors of this money, people selling this money? There's a market where the traders came out to say, why should there be people selling this money? I'm talking about Onitsha. Some traders in Onitsha were saying, how come people have this money and they are selling it? And we go to the banks, they are selling the money, yes. And we cannot get these new notes. Why? Yeah, the central bank will say, anybody caught engaging in selling notes will be jailed and all that. Who has been jailed? So let them stop this joke, please.
Jide, what do you make of this ultimatum?
No, I still don't understand the indecent haste in saying that by January 31st,
Guys, 16 days time.
The old notes will no longer be legal tender. I don't understand the haste. And Nigeria is not the first country where new notes will be printed or minted. In the UK, when they did something like this, they provided 2 years deadline. 2 years. And that is a country where the infrastructure is much better than ours. They are much better than us in many ways. They gave their people what do you expect people to do between now and January 31? Borno State, where I am now, has 27 local governments. It is only in 4 local governments that you can see banks.
Just we have what?
Banks.
And those 4 that we are talking about, 2 of them are in the state capital. The whole of Borno North, including Monguno, where the National Security Advisor comes from, there is no bank. Borno Central, the whole of Borno Central, Borno Metropolitan and Jere, still part of Jere is like part of the Metropolitan. Those are 2 places where you see banks. Then in Borno South, Biu, the local government of the former chief of army staff, Biu local government, they have bank. There is another local government in Borno South called Koyakusa, they have bank. Just 4 in the whole of Borno State. And these are people who do business. Borno has always been a center of business. Kanem Borno area. Where are they all going to deposit their old notes within the time frame, within the time ceiling that the CBN governor came up with? they clearly underrated the logistical challenge that people. As I was talking about Yola and Jimeta, just one branch of the biggest bank in our country today. The biggest bank in our country today is Access Bank. By number of ATMs, by number of branches. The only edge you could say Zenith Bank has over it is in the quantum of profit. But using other parameters, Access Bank is the biggest bank in Nigeria after the acquisition of Diamond Bank. They have more branches than anybody. They have more ATM galleries than everybody. And they have subscriber base more than anybody. But it has only one branch in Yola and Jimeta. If you enter the branch, and see crowd, you will run back immediately. But that's the thing. You go to the banks in that's the same way it is. The banks are overstretched, especially in states where there is a lot of insecurity. A lot of the branches have been closed down. When they say that, okay, they are putting new notes in ATMs, it's only the person who has a bank account that can use the ATM. And a lot of our people don't have bank accounts.
Even at that, you can't force that's the lie. At that, go to any ATM now.
Yes,
dispensing the old notes.
If you don't have a bank account, how can you use the ATM? And you are saying they should not give people money across the counter. They should not give them new notes. How do you circulate it? A good number of our people don't even use the ATMs at all because they don't have bank accounts. And now, if you must travel, so you don't have branches. Central, do you to the nearest point where they can exchange their money? These people are not thinking about the pains that this thing will inflict on people. We are not saying that it is wrong to come up with new notes. We are not saying that cashless policy is wrong. But you must give sufficient time ceiling.
Exactly. Yes. The timing.
You must pity the Nigerian people. You cannot just simply wake up and say, oh, within 1 month, they should go and do. How are they going to do it? Many farmers and unlucky people have been deliberately buying things, using their old currencies to buy produce and all that, dumping all the money on these farmers. How do these farmers get to exchange these notes for new notes? Now, even those who have taken money to the banks, do you know what is happening? You take your old notes to the bank. By the time you go back, you want to take some money. It is still old notes that will be dispensed to you. So you are taking old notes from people and recirculating the same old notes back to. I mean, it's crazy. So what are we going to? We don't want to admit that there are problems. If you fail to admit that there is a problem, how do you then solve it? How do you take new notes, old notes from people and then give them old notes by the time they return to bank? Some of the ATMs that we are talking about, you can see in an ATM gallery, maybe there are 6 ATMs. 3 will be dispensing old notes. 3 will be dispensing new notes. How do we cope with that? And we want people to believe that we made it. How do we make the deadline?
I don't think the 31st
is visible. A big stakeholder. Nasima said no. Extend this thing. No B5. That is the finance and insurance workers. They have said extend this thing. The Senate has proposed June 30. Extend this thing. That's what everybody is saying. The CBN can't sit down there and imagine that they are wiser than everybody. We all belong to this country and we can feel the pain. We can see the problems.
Okay.
Honestly, I personally, talking about the extension, I will personally recommend 6 months. Honestly. At least it's yes. And then they now face it, they face the old currency.
CKN said it the other day, that, due to the death of the Queen, the pound is going to be changed to, King of England. But the process is going to take 4 years.
Exactly.
4 years transition.
Face it out gradually.
You can't just say you want to.
So let the current notes or the old notes disappear gradually. don't see them anymore.
More period of circulation in installments.
That's the way it should be. But this fire brigade approach is not going to work. You are just going to cause wala for people.
You just want to punish people.
Even
yes.
We can't, the person that is meant to be driving the process is nowhere to be found.
That is the question. It's not in the country. So, who will...
And then there's a meeting of the Monetary Policy Committee on Wednesday. I don't know. Yes, I think Wednesday.
But are they going to talk about the problem? Well, I hope they find time to talk about it. But basically, our leaders should always bear in mind that policies are not meant to punish the people. They should enunciate policies that make things better and easier for the people. This whole thing is just like punishing Nigerians for nothing. You don't put people never the resign. And look at what happened. Somebody he couldn't get his money changed. So do we want that to, God forbid, that people will resort to killing themselves because they have the old nose and they can't change them. They become worthless. What do you want people to do?
Okay, one of our correspondents, one of our own, that Ismail Omikbidon reacted to earlier topic. I was a correspondent at the National Assembly at that time. I can confirm that Obasanjo wanted a third time. It only failed. Mantu told us in confidence that Ibrahim Mantu, former Deputy Senate President, and several other senators. I was there when Senator Itagiwa, the advisor to Obasanjo on National Assembly, broke down in tears, saying, I beg these people, senators, but they refuse to listen. That's Ismail Omikbidon, one of our own, and the former Chief Press Secretary to the Osun State, former Governor of Osun State, and the political editor of Sunday Party at the time. You see? So, Julie said it.
There's too much of evidence.
No, that's what I'm saying. Does he want people to reveal how much was shared to each person? Which bank? The name of the bank, the name of the defunct bank, and the branch.
And you mentioned the activities of corporate Nigerians then, led by Ndidi Okereke. That time, we know the movement and everything.
You should stop talking about it.
Let's sleeping dogs.
Yes, just talking about it. You should just stop talking about it.
Let's face our existential issues of rice and beans, and it should not disturb us. That odious stuff.
Jude Ismail just reacted to the third time thing as you said it, that he cannot deny.
No, he's entitled to his opinion, but he's not entitled to his own facts. Facts are facts. There is no such thing as your own fact. Because there is something called your opinion. Obasanjo is entitled to his opinion, but he's not entitled to his own facts. So more and more people will come out to expose him for the blatant lie that he told. It's a terrible thing. But people have stories to tell about this. People have stories to tell.
I remember the likes of Senator Adolphus Wabara at that time. They were standing up one by one.
They were sitting at the back.
Oh, my people are saying no to third time. No. They were standing up one by one, and we saw their faces. Wow, you can't very, very, very.
Engineered.
Yes, it's remover. Before that
you were expecting such a person to have supported your.
I'm sure many people are laughing at Obasanjo now. Many people are just laughing at.
What's wrong with
that? What's this Baba saying?
Yes,
he should forget about it.
And Baba said he's not going to go on campaign trail with Peter Obi.
That's
his endorsement.
Yes.
If that is all he said, probably will not be having this conversation. If that is all he said, we discussed it last Sunday. If that's all he said, I've endorsed Obi, but I will not be on his campaign because I'm non-partisan. It's okay. Like BKO said, your opinion, your decision. But you can't change historical facts. You can't change it. You can't rewrite history. What is done cannot be undone.
Or else people will start looking into things like the presidential library, the blind trust, the 200 million shares blind trust.
I've sat down with the former minister of work, and he has told me about this third time thing, what panned out, everything. It was so glaring. That's so denying. All right, I think we have to leave it there. BKO, we want you back in Lagos.
Yeah. Thank you. I'll be back in a few days.
We're counting down to the election.
So
I think it's 41 days to the election. BKO, we want you to be on
so
the
many
ground
interesting things. Yeah, so many interesting things happening, especially in the north.
Okay,
and by the time we begin our day-to-day
countdown
analysis
and prediction
of the election.
Yes, that's one thing I want to tell you. I've discussed with the BKO before.
That's why all of the journeys that I want to make them now, so that that period, the last 1 month to the election, I don't want to go anywhere. So whatever I'm doing now, trying to look for money for the company, I can do it.
I promise our viewers that we are going to take our stand state by state. We are not going to shy away from anything, and we are going to say it the way you know it. And if you like, come at us. We are not God. Our prediction might not be 100%, but we are going to take a stand. And when you get to the presidential election, we are going to take a stand.
The problem is that when people mix emotion with reality, once you can detach the emotion, I normally tell people that if your enemy, somebody you don't like is richer than you, you just have to admit it's richer than you, even though you don't like the person.
Yes.
I mean, the person you don't like may emerge the president.
Yes.
But that's the fact.
Yes.
You don't need to like him.
We're not going beyond duty call.
No. Well, it's okay. Of course, that's what the media, that's the job of the media.
The call of duty.
The news.
BKO, you want to say something?
Yeah, I said duty. In the voice of Zino, the Nigerian musician. In the voice of that young musician, Zino Liski. Call of duty.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Paul Dada, thank you. Emeka Madunagu.
Thank you very much.
And throwing in the passes from Meduguri there. BKO, thank you for making Journalist Hangout on Sunday.
Thank you.
Yes, interesting. And that's our offering today. Join us tomorrow for our regular program. That's for 5 p.m. Journalist Hangout daily. That's you can watch the repeat broadcast of this episode tonight by 11 p.m. Well,
there is always more to a story than the screaming headline. The part of a story that casts a shadow. It's like the part of an object that is not reached by light. On TVC News, I'm able to explore the many angles there are to a story, talking to stakeholders, difficult questions, and digging for facts. I believe the viewers are able to make a better decision if they're well informed and understand